Before we jump into the episode today, I want to share something with you from my heart. First of all, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I really can't tell you how much your support means to me. We've been doing the podcast now for almost 4 years. I can't even believe it. And I'm so grateful for each and every single one of you that listens, shares an episode with your friends, sends me a DM or a text message letting me know how an episode resonated with you or any aha moments. Seriously, I couldn't be more grateful to be able to create this podcast. It has been such a blessing in my life, and I love hearing the ways it's been able to provide value in yours as well. One thing you might not know is how much work it takes to be consistent with a podcast. In fact, did you know that the majority of podcasts don't make it past episode number 10? And we are well beyond that. And it's just a lot thinking of the episodes, recording them, editing them, managing the guests, making sure that everything runs smoothly and gets uploaded consistently and regularly. And so that's why I have created an amazing opportunity for you to support the podcast monetarily. And in exchange for that, you will get exclusive premium subscriber content. So for as little as $3 a month, you can become a premium subscriber of the podcast. And every month I will upload new voice-guided workouts and breathwork meditation audio for you. So that way you can work out with me, coaching you in your ears. You can also take a moment to reduce your stress and relax and come down and ground down with one of my breathwork audios. So if that is on your heart to support the podcast for as little as $3 a month to become a premium podcast subscriber, I can't tell you how much that means to me and the growth of this podcast. I appreciate you. If you're interested, click the link in the description, become a premium podcast subscriber, new content every month, and while supplies last, I'll send you an exclusive podcast coffee mug so you can have your self-love and sweat coffee every morning. I appreciate you. Now let's get into the show. Welcome to Self-Love and Sweat, the podcast, the place where you'll get inspired to live your life unapologetically, embrace your perfect imperfections, break down barriers, and do what sets your soul on fire. I'm your host, Lunden Souza. Hey friend, it's me, Lunden Souza, online lifestyle transformation coach. I help people all over the world just like you who know they are meant for more, get their mind right and their body tight, and go from crazy busy to crazy happy. And hey, if it's our first time meeting, welcome. So happy to have you. And if you've been with us for a while, it's so great that you're here too. I'm really excited to share this episode of the Self-Love and Sweat podcast with you. Hey, I want to tell you quickly about 2 ways that you can get connected beyond the podcast to uplevel your health, your life, your fitness, reach your goals, but also support the podcast as well. So the first option is our Self-Love and Sweat monthly members only meetup. We meet up on the last Saturday of the month on Zoom for 90 minutes to cover some important topics, to answer your questions, and then to also do a workout together. It's a great way to have that support, have that accountability, get supercharged, and get reminded that there are other people all over the world on this journey of self-love and sweat, and you don't have to do it alone. You can join your first month for only $1 using code SELFLOVE1 at checkout, and then it's $27 a month after that. So you go to lifelikeLondon.com/monthly, use the code SELFLOVE1 at checkout to try us out, test it out for only $1 for your first month, and then you can be on board to listen to the podcast, join up on the meetups, and just really feel like you're connected and thriving on this journey to reach your goals. The second option is our Strong at Home for Women 8-week dumbbell-only workout plan. We have women all over the world getting stronger from the inside out right at home, right? So we're ready to take action to get stronger despite the circumstances of the world. And we know that we're not about to do that alone. So embark on this 8-week journey with us. You can go to lifelikeLondon.com/strong at home. You can pick up your 8-week plan. And the exciting thing is that every 8 weeks, we open it up, myself and my co-coach, for VIP all access coaching with us. So not only do you get the plan, but you get Zoom fireside chats with us. You get an exclusive way to chat with us anytime so you can ask your questions, share your progress. And we're always continuing to stay connected and motivate and inspire each other on our journey to get stronger, no matter what that means for us. So if you know that you're meant for more, you're ready to get stronger from the inside out, and you're just like, yes, I need a plan and some structure, something to tell me what to do. I know I'm ready, but I need that coaching. I can't do it alone. We are here for you. You can go to lifelikeLondon.com/strong at home, pick up the plan, figure out when our next VIP all access registration is opening so you can get that support and guidance. And the third thing, I said there was two, but the third thing is you can do both. You can join us for those monthly meetups. You can be there for the 8-week program. You know, this coaching and this support is here for you. We want to get you real results that last so you never have to start over again. And so you guys are awesome. Enjoy this episode. Get connected. Self-love and sweat, friends. Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Today our guest is Amy Gerhartz, and she is the founder of Higher Way to Living. She is a mindset coach, NLP practitioner, hypnotherapist, and she helps purpose-driven women rise up to who they are meant to be. Welcome, Amy, to the podcast. So great to have you.
Hey, Lunden. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So cool to have you. I've known Amy for a couple years now in a variety of different ways. So when I first met you, you were really into singing and performing and using your voice, and now you're coaching, and there's been a lot of transition and a lot of beauty in that. So how about you share a little bit with us about your journey from, being in the spotlight, being on stage. And then I know we kind of went through a pandemic that prevented us from showing up on stages in the way that we were maybe used to. And now here you are just thriving as a coach and as a woman. And so what was that journey been like for you? Tell us a little bit more.
Oh my goodness. How much time do we have? So I grew up in performance. I grew up with a musical family. My father sings, my grandmother sings, my brothers and sisters are all musically inclined. I went to school at a really young age. I started in theater and music and choir and show choir with the jazz hands and all the things. And so music was always something that was, and performance of some sort was always inherently in my blood. It was something that I just naturally knew how to do. But I really want to preface this as a little bit of foreshadowing. Just because I naturally knew how to do it doesn't mean I was always confident doing it. So those are two different things. But yeah, super long story short, I went to college for music. I quit my job after post-college in 2007 to pursue a career in music full-time and never looked back. I was self-employed in the entertainment industry or as an independent touring artist for about 14 years, toured across country for about 6 years pre-pandemic. And during that time, that little bit of foreshadowing that I told you about, right around 2015, I had just completed my first cross-country tour, and I had just moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and was, unpacking my new apartment. My sister had moved down. We were living together. She had moved from New Jersey, and I remember being in my apartment in the winter of 2015, early 2016, and really just basically lost it. If you could have a breakdown of all sorts, I ended up having one. And it was one of those things because the reality was I was doing a lot of amazing things with my career. I was traveling the country. I was lending my voice to film and commercial projects. I was as an independent musician doing pretty well financially as well. But I was genuinely unhappy internally. I lacked a lot of confidence in myself. I would be on stage performing, but in my head, I be thinking, oh my gosh, what if I mess this up? What do I look like? Are people judging my outfits right now? What's happening? So I was everywhere but where I was supposed to be mentally, right? I was there physically. I was showing up physically, but mentally I was genuinely struggling. I was shaming myself a lot. I would call myself names like fat and ugly, and I would just really beat myself up. And I would even say, and I've said this on another podcast now in hindsight, learning about body dysmorphia, I believe I had some minor case of that. I still think I struggle with that on occasion. I think we all do on some level when we look in the mirror and what we see doesn't match what we think we look like, or what we think we look like is different than what we actually look like. So that was something that I really, really struggled with. But I remember that moment in Nashville when I was basically laying on my bedroom floor, just crying my eyes out. And I knew that I couldn't do this anymore, right? I couldn't live this kind of double life of being in this person that pretends to be super happy and excited on stage. And then all of a sudden just going home and feeling like there was this lack inside of me. So I knew something had to change. And that is when I say I started my journey. I started my journey at the beginning of 2016 or the end of 2015. And that's when life really started to change. And what ended up happening is I made an agreement with myself that in that moment, no matter what I thought, no matter what negative thought came to my head, I wasn't going to allow it to come out of my mouth anymore. So I started with one thing. I was like, just one thing. If I can do one thing, it's just going to be, okay, I know I'm thinking these things, but I'm not going to give them a voice anymore. I'm not going to let them come out of my mouth. And then I started leaning into therapy, leaning into books, leaning into podcasts, leaning into audio, following and reading Brene Brown, reading Glennon Doyle, reading a bunch of other powerful women, because I wanted to learn from people that were like me. I wanted to learn from people that had struggled just like I did, because what am I going to learn from somebody who's never been on my journey, right? So it was something for me. I just started working on myself. And in this process of developing myself, I started writing songs about self-love and empowerment. I started sharing my story when I would travel across country, because this was 2016. I still toured for 4 or 5 more years after that. And so I was sharing my story, I'm trying to think of when I started touring. It doesn't matter. For the sake of today, it doesn't matter. But I started sharing my story on stage, and in between songs, like I would say, hey, this is the song I wrote when I really didn't like who I was in the mirror, when I didn't like the way I looked. And then I found after all of these shows that I was playing that women were coming up to me, and even some men that would come up to me and say, hey, not just I liked your performance, but I'm struggling with the same thing too. I'm going through the same thing too. And I realized this connection that was starting to be made between me and the audience. And it was almost like this wall was being taken down. That barrier when sometimes you see someone on stage and there's kind of this wall between you and the person who's on stage. Well, that started falling down. And I started finding after touring and traveling that, maybe there's something to this whole sharing my story thing, right? Maybe there's something to me being vulnerable with my audience. Maybe there's something to all of this. And I started finding in this process, as much as I loved performance, as much as I love singing, and I still love singing. I picked up my guitar the other night and played by myself and just let myself sing out because I hadn't done it in a very long time. But I realized that in this moment, I was like, maybe my voice gets to be used for something more. And then when the pandemic basically knocked out the entire entertainment industry, it was, in my mind, it was God's way of saying, hey, you've been asking for another way to use your voice. Now you get to have that. And so I dove in. I said, okay, let's explore this coaching thing. I met some wonderful people in this space. I met you, obviously, as well, and met a bunch of other powerful women in leadership and women in coaching and business, and started learning about business. I went back, I got my NLP certification, which is neuro-linguistic programming. I'm finishing up my master's certification in NLP right now. I'm certified as a hypnosis practitioner. I'm certified as a hypnotherapist. And then I just started coaching. And I said, you know what? I know this is something I want to do. I don't have to be perfect at it. I just have to know what I'm talking about with me. And then I just have to find the other women out there that I get to support, women and men, although I coach mostly women that need that type of support too. And so it really became this beautiful transition of the 20 years of entertainment and then my own personal journey, then, coaching into self-love and writing music about that made it really easy for me to transition into being a transformation coach for women.
Mm. Oh, I love that story. It's so good. And it's just so important, to tell that story and to share it because of those moments, like you said, where people are coming up to you. And then I'm sure you've had those experiences with other coaches. You mentioned some great authors, Brene Brown, all those, those legends where it's like when they're speaking, you're like, oh my gosh, like their vulnerability gave me like my unofficial permission slip to then show up even more vulnerable and share, like you said, those little tidbits in between songs of where this came from, where your heart space was. And as we start to be more vulnerable and peel those layers back, of course, it's not easy. It's super uncomfortable. Sometimes you feel very like naked and exposed. But when we do that, then we open the door for others too, to be like, hey, me too. I'm experiencing that. And like you said, men, women, like people from all walks of life, even though our pain and our experience is super unique, there's still so much crossover into what other people are experiencing too. And I'm always reminded like, oh, we're in this together. Like we're not as different as we think we are. And as soon as we just start sharing and opening up, it's so amazing. And I love that you mentioned, some of your credentials like NLP and hypnosis and things like that. I'm also an NLP practitioner. And I feel like that tool and even hypnosis and things like that are such great tools that you probably needed for your own journey. And then you're like, oh my gosh, this helps me so much. How could I not share that with others? So as you started learning and gathering more tools like in your tool belt, how is it helping your life?
Oh, I use everything that I coach and teach to other people. I even say this too a lot to my clients and anyone that I speak to or work with. I am not perfect. And neither are you. There's no such thing as perfection. There just isn't. Every single day, I would be a hypocrite if I went to my clients, Lunden, and I was like, hey, guess what? Hypnosis is great for you, but then I don't use it for myself, right? Or NLP is really great for you, but then I don't use it for myself. Everything I coach and everything that the different modalities that I use to coach with, and even if it's leadership training, because I've been through extensive leadership trainings, mindset, just basic mindset work, which could be crossover into NLP as well too. It all gets to be used by me. I am my number one experiment. Like I have been through it all and I would never coach or lean into something that I haven't done myself. And for me, I still get to continue to develop. I'm constantly going to trainings. I'm constantly going through. I have a coach. I've got a therapist I see. I've got more certifications that I'm working on and getting in my tool belt so that I can be an even better coach or more serving coach to my clients. And it helps tremendously because it's almost like building a community and a safe space between you, the people you work with, the things that you're doing, connecting it all together. Everything benefits, everything supports. And I absolutely would never, ever promote something that I haven't done or used.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same. And I think I love what you said about I'm not perfect. No one's perfect. That's not the goal. The goal is to just be vulnerable and open and aware of where we're at, tuned into where we want to go, what's feeling right for us, what's that next step. And it seems like you already kind of, like you said, you've had that foreshadowing a little of that like inkling, that knowing. And sometimes that's what happens. The universe and God have to just be like, hey, we're going to push you full into what you've already kind of know you need to get into. And sorry, you don't get to test out the water yet. You just get to be pushed right into it. And it's sometimes, and I think the more you start to think that way and have those moments, it's like you can kind of chuckle and be like, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking and kind of what I was looking for already. So thanks for the oomph, one of the things I think I might have shared this with you when we first met. And I know that when you first started coaching, you were coaching a lot of entertainers and people who were in your same industry who were feeling the way you were feeling, where it's like, what the heck? Like stages are gone. Like the world's really changed. The entertainment industry as we know it is very, very different. And a lot of people were struggling a ton. And from my perspective, I was living in Austria. I moved back to America a couple of years ago. I was on stages a ton. I was doing live workout parties, events, speaking engagements, like all over the world, to the point where I felt felt like very comfortable and at home on stage. And it was just like, yeah. And then as soon as the pandemic hit and the rug was kind of pulled out from under us, it was like really challenging for me. I was kind of like, who am I? You know, like I had this stage, all these eyes looking, that's not there anymore. I'm feeling kind of, yeah, just like empty, kind of weird, like, and it was really a process of me crafting, like, and using that as an opportunity to be like, okay, Lunden, who is Lunden? On stage, off stage, you know, whatever, nighttime, daytime, at home, visiting friends, like whatever, like, what does it mean to be Lunden? And I really kind of dove down that rabbit hole a little bit of like, okay, there could be no stages, there could be no, you know, recognition, audience, whatever. And like, you still got to be good and, you know, do you. And so what was that experience like for you and maybe some other, you know, entertainers? And I think a lot of people listening, you resonate. It's like after 2020, it was like, wait, who am I? Like if you pluck away all these things and take it away, you know, what does that leave? What does that leave? Who am I? And what am I bringing to this world? So what would you have to say on that?
Yeah, I think it's really important, you know, this past couple of years that we've all experienced has really been a giant lesson in resiliency. And I want to preface to everybody that's listening that there's no one size fits all. I know some entertainers that were able to bounce back immediately, that made a plan, that got to work, that started something in addition to music, that just were very much able to, and myself included. Look, I'm not going to tell you I didn't have a couple days with some whiskey and some Netflix movies and crying my eyes out, because that definitely happened. But I also had done a lot of work on myself pre-COVID. So I'd already prepped. And even though it was incredibly scary, even though a lot of stuff had happened, I had already started performing online shows for a couple of years prior to COVID anyway. So transitioning to the online space with music was not difficult for me. However, we all have our journeys, right? So even though I took a couple of months and I had already before, let's just say this. And like I said, I want to go back to what I mentioned before. This might be a little choppy coming in for the listeners, but bear with me, guys. I got to point to this. Because I had already known pre-COVID for a couple of years that I wanted to use my voice for more, like because I had been sharing my story on stage, because I had been, you know, having those conversations, those intimate conversations with my fans and people at my shows, I knew I had already started mentally prepping for something more. I had already started mentally assessing where to go in the future. So 2020 was supposed to be my last year touring. It was going to be my last cross country tour. So I had already had that plan, and the universe and God just sped it up. It was just like, they were just like, okay, guess what? Now you're not doing that. But that doesn't mean that it wasn't scary. It didn't mean that there wasn't, for me, moments of like, oh, you know, oh shit, what am I doing? I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on your podcast, Lyndon. Sorry.
You are. Bring it on. All good.
All right. So I had that oh shit moment. I had that kind of like, I mean, for me, I had no way to pay my bills because I hadn't built my business yet. But I also knew, thankfully, I've got an amazing family. I was able to put all of my stuff into storage. I was able to give up my apartment in Nashville, put all my stuff in storage, move home, live at home. It actually worked out really well because we had some family stuff that was going on during COVID that I needed to be there for. And so it worked out really well. And I was able to start over. Now, I know not everybody has the same experience of me. There were some entertainers that bounced back right away, some entertainers that still haven't bounced back. And this is where I think we get to lean into, for anyone who's listening to this who has not had that quote unquote bounce back yet, I think it's really important to point out that that's okay. Take the pressure off of yourself to look like Lunden or to look like me or to look like anybody else who jumped into action. We all have our own journey that we follow, and the kinder that you can be to yourself along that journey. Some people are still in that space of like, what the hell am I doing? Right? Where is my identity? What am I doing? And that's okay. That's why all of us are here to support each other in that. So, but yeah, there's definitely been moments of identity stuff, but I think I felt most of those, Lunden, before COVID. I think I went through a lot of those when I had my breakdown in 2015. You know, I think for me, because I had embraced the self-love journey earlier on, it made the whole transition of COVID much easier to navigate.
Yeah, I love that.
Also, I'm getting a little bit of feedback. I don't know if you're hearing that. Like I'm hearing an echo coming through on my end.
Oh, no, I don't hear any feedback, but if anything is funky, we'll hopefully fix it. If you guys hear anything, let us know. But no, I don't hear anything.
I just wanted to let you know. Sorry.
No, it's all good. Thank you. I appreciate it. Sometimes with technology, we were talking about this before, it can just be like funny. And I think that everybody after COVID has had to spend more time using technology, navigating technology, figuring out all this kind of stuff. So I think that's also helped me have a little bit more patience and just kind of trust in what we're doing. One of the things that you said, I wrote it down on this sticky note next to me because I want to know what it looked like for you. So when you said you were mentally preparing for something more, like were you doing something? Were you physically doing something? Was it more mindset stuff? Like what were you doing to actually mentally prepare for something more?
So something I've learned recently that has been one of my greatest strengths that I have swept under the rug many, many years or for many years is my intuition. When you're on this journey of self-discovery, for all the listeners, you are constantly learning. It doesn't ever end. Like I will be learning things about myself probably until my deathbed. Like I am constantly learning. And one of the biggest breakthroughs I've had over the last year or so is the power of my intuition. And for many years, it's that gut feeling, right? Like, I don't know. I get this gut feeling that I should be following this path and I should be doing that, but no, I'm not going to do that right now. Like, I'm just going to, I don't know. It's like, or I have this gut feeling this is not the person I should be dating, but I'm just going to ignore it, like whatever those things are. So I've been leaning a lot into my intuition, and my intuition for probably a couple of years pre-COVID was like, Amy, there's something else out there. There's something else out there. So to answer your question for my journey specifically, I actually did start leaning into it in 2019. And I started listening and saying, okay, well, let me explore. Like, what else is there? I went to some business conferences. Tony Robbins came through and spoke in Nashville, and I went and saw him speak. And of course, if you ever see Tony Robbins, you're going to cry. I want to preface, bring some tissues. You're going to lose it, and it's going to be life-changing and wonderful. But I started going to some of these things. I started exploring. I explored real estate for a little while, real estate investing. I was like, maybe that's a path, I could go into as an entertainer. And it's something I definitely want to lean into at some point in the future, because I do believe it's smart to have multiple streams of income. Although I'm going to wait for a different market to get involved in real estate investing. Right now it's getting a little high. But for me, I was like, okay, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe I get to learn about that. And then I started just kind of exploring. I started exploring what was really going to bring me joy, what was really going to make me happy. I realized as an entertainer that I needed to learn, I don't need to do anything. I got to learn how to run a business on a different level. I got to learn how to ask for support, which is huge because look, Google and YouTube can teach you a bajillion things. However, you can spend hours and hours and hours on YouTube trying to figure it out on your own, or you can hire somebody who's done the work that you already want to do and figure it out that way and get there a lot faster. So I started hiring coaches. I started doing all this stuff. I realized, like you'd said, I'd started working with entertainers, and I love entertainers. I can relate to being in entertainment. But then as I was coaching these entertainers, I had all these women reaching out to me that were non-entertainers. So I leaned into my intuition again. I was like, well, what's this? Like, I don't have to niche down into just one thing. I can kind of explore where life is going to take me. And I think the biggest lesson I learned as I started leaning in and I started, exploring, was that it doesn't have to look the way I think it's supposed to. That is the biggest lesson in life. All I need to know is where I want to end up. That's it. Like, I know where I want to end up financially. I know where I want to end up in my love life. I know where I want to end up with my family. I know where I want to end up. But the journey to get there gets to be open. It gets to be something that I get to explore. Maybe for when I first started, it was easy for me to coach entertainers because I felt comfortable. And then I could work on my NLP skills. I could work on my hypnosis skills. And then now I'm leaning towards women that are purpose-driven women that are in leadership, because it brings me joy to have one of my clients call me and say, hey, I totally knocked it out of the park in this business presentation because I believed in myself, right? Or I totally just got a 13% raise and a $27,000 bonus because of the coaching that we did together. It's like, this works, so it's all exploration. But yeah, to answer your question in a very long way, I absolutely started just exploring and learning things and then putting them into practice.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love your answers are perfect. You always come back, you make a full point, and it's all the details that we need to know to get inspired and get motivated. Because what I hear you saying is like, I just went out and I tried shit. Like I tried things that I maybe thought were interesting. I followed my heart, followed my gut, tried a little bit of this, went here, went there. And then I decided, okay, that resonates, that doesn't. Let me kind of, go here, kind of close that door, open up this one. And it reminds me a lot of what Gary Vee often says. I don't know if you follow him, but I really love him. I feel like he's like coffee. I can't, watch him after noon or I get like so pumped up, but he often says like, cause he works with a lot of younger entrepreneurs and things like that. And who often will tell him like, I don't really know what I want to do, or I'm not sure. And he'll be like, you haven't tried enough stuff. Like go out and try more things, go out and be curious, go explore more, go try this, see who you might meet, what you might try. And I think that's a big one too, is like, sometimes we try, like maybe, I don't know, real estate investing wasn't for you or isn't for you ever, just not right now. But like maybe the people that you met, you connected with someone here that helped you in another area of your life or helped you realize something else. So it's like when we just go out and we're hungry for more, like you said, just preparing, there was just something. And I love also what you said about like, you knew where you were now, you know where you want to be in terms of your goals and your dreams. You're pretty flexible with the outcome too, because we want to, make sure we're, not too in control of what's supposed to be, but we have this clear picture. Our intuition's been pretty on point. And then we let God and the universe kind of take care of the rest. And the how is oftentimes where people get stuck. It's like, well, I don't have a full plan and I don't know exactly how. And what if I, find myself in this situation, or what if I find myself over here? And I think a lot of people find themselves very stagnant because they don't feel like they have all the steps in a row, or there's some fear of stepping into the unknown, of being like, I don't know what the steps are, but I'm going to still show up and take them as they present themselves to me, because I know that the next step is the next one I need to take anyways. And so how were you able to, and maybe even now were and are able to now to say, hey, I have this big picture. I don't know the how really. I'm going to step in faith and kind of, just keep moving forward despite not knowing. What kind of keeps you fired up or keeps you going despite not knowing? And maybe there is some fear, some hesitancy, maybe not at all. Maybe you're just like cannonball now. But what's that like for you?
Yeah, well, I'm almost a cannonball, so that's good. I will say that it all comes down to the more in tune I am with myself, and the more I lean into trusting myself, and then trusting the gifts that God has given me, and letting go of the control, because I am a big controller. I'm a controlling promoter is my personality matrix. I don't know if you've ever done that with Lewis Howes, the personality matrix. It's a leadership style of personality. So I am very excitable. I love high energy. Like, let's do this. It's great. But also we got to get shit done. Let's go. Like, I don't care how we do it. Let's just do it. So I'm usually the person that just dives in and figures it out later. I'm aware that a lot of listeners are probably not like that. So for me, what gets me, I have systems that I put into place every day. And I have systems of things that I've learned through not only my experience and my certifications through NLP and hypnotherapy, but I've also learned through the leadership trainings I've done. I did this amazing leadership training last year called Heart Core Leadership. If I highly recommend, this is not a sales pitch, you guys. I just want you to know that it's shifted my life and the way that I see myself. I highly recommend it to anyone. If you guys do sign up, tell them I sent you, and we'll give you virtual hugs and all of those things. And I don't make any money off of this program, by the way, just FYI, but it shifted the way that I saw myself. And just like hiring a coach, right? Just like hiring somebody, we need someone in our corner to see our blind spots. And I have a lot of blind spots. So the more blind spots that I have other people point out for me, that I'm able to see, that I'm able to rip off, I'm able to come to the core identity of who I really am. And this is the type of coaching I do with my clients now. I support them in finding their blind spots. We rip them out by the roots, and then they're able to proceed forward more confidently, more self-assured. They're able to take action in their lives. So for me, like I said earlier, I practice what I preach. So I have systems in place. I have a contract. I say to myself every day, I am a loving, passionate, committed woman. Every single day when I wake up, I'm a loving, passionate, committed woman. When I wake up every morning too, I've created systems because of the fact that I am a high promoter and a high controller. And I'm also have ADD. I can get all over the place throughout the day. My brain is like, oh, this would be fun. No, this would be fun. And I'm also a big dreamer. So because I'm a purpose-driven individual and I work with purpose-driven individuals, we dream really, really big. Like there's a bajillion things I want to accomplish in my life, right? But if I look at that, it can be really, really overwhelming. So I create systems in my day and structures, just like we've talked about high performance habits, right? That book, like I've created systems to keep me on track every single day, to where I say my contract every morning. I touch base with myself. I take about 5 to 10 minutes. I'm not a huge like morning meditation person because of my ADD. If I spend too much time, I feel like I just want to crawl back into bed. So I take about 5 minutes in prayer, in scripture, in touching base with how I'm feeling every morning when I wake up, having a personal coaching session with myself in the morning. My mornings are my me time. I go to the gym in the morning. I get my workouts in. You very rarely will see me work out in the afternoon or evening, because by that time I'll never go to sleep. And I create space and time in my day to do the things that are the most important for that day. And anything that doesn't get done that day, it goes to the next day. And that's okay. I have learned through the tools that I've been through and the tools that I teach how to release the pressure valve. We put so much pressure on ourselves to get so much done every single day, every single week. And there's a way that you can show up and get things done without the overwhelm, without the anxiety, without the stress. Like imagine your life as a little pressure cooker, a little Instant Pot, right? And just push that little pressure valve over, release the pressure out. All the stuff's still going to be there. It's not going anywhere. It's okay, right? But I've learned how to do that with myself. And that's what gets me amped up. The other thing as well that I do, and I understand each listener is going to be different, but for me, I have a life now, and it might, it's funny because I say this out loud, and I imagine who I used to be 7 years ago before I did this work. And these words never would have come out of my mouth then, because I didn't understand the value of it. But for me, my number one goal for the rest of my life is to serve people. That's it. My number one goal that I have for the rest of my life is to find the women out there that struggle with their self-doubt, that struggle with their shame, that feel like they're not good enough, and to help them see the light, help them to see the real them, and to touch base authentically with who they are. So when I wake up every day, like I've got lists on my walls, I've got things around me to remind me of why I'm showing up every day. So whatever your why is for you in your life, that's my why. My why is to, when I die and I leave this earth, for whatever that looks like, when that happens, that I have lived a life of service to other people. Whatever your why is, your why might be your family. Your why might be, it might be, I don't know, anything that's important to you, but reminding yourself of that will instantly shift your mind in the morning of saying, oh, wow, yeah, that's why I'm here today. That's what it is. This is why I'm doing the extra 4 hours of work, in the evenings. This is why I'm doing X, Y, and Z. But yeah, does that answer your question? I feel like I gave a lot of things.
Yes,
but that kept me going. Yeah.
So valuable, and totally answered the question, because I just had asked, like, what do you do when you don't know what like you know what you're maybe going to do today. And like you said, you have the list of to-dos, a few things you're going to knock out, but we don't really know what that journey and that trajectory really looks like. And I made a video for Instagram today that was like, you don't get the journey back. Like when you reach your goal and you get to that point, like you don't get to get that whole journey back. Enjoy the process, enjoy showing up regularly despite some uncertainty, enjoy showing up when you're gung-ho and feeling super motivated. Or if you're just like, oh man, today is like you said, I could just kind of go back to bed or whatever. But it seems like you've really set up systems and processes to help guide you. I often say I'm kind of like the bowling, like it's like the blockers in a bowling alley that prevent you from going in the gutter. It's like you have these systems and processes, your to-do list, your sticky notes, all the things that like as you're going down the alleyway there, you can kind of bounce off of that keep you in check. And also, you know, sharing stuff about ADD and just being, you know, let's say chronically distracted or allured by like new sparkly shiny things, you know? And it seems like you're seeing that more as like your superpower and being able to say like, okay, I'm going to bring in more people that are going to help me see a lot of my blind spots because I am, you know, X, Y, or Z. I know you mentioned some, I have never done that before. The personality matrix. I wrote that down here and I'll put it in the show notes, but it's like, I know who I am. I know the way that I generally show up. I like that, but I do have a lot of blind spots. And so bringing people in to check that is so powerful because sometimes maybe some of you listening, it's just like people will call you out, or often I'll say like, call you in. That's what I tell my clients. I'm not calling you out. I'm calling you in. Like this is something that, you know, a blind spot that maybe you're not seeing. And sometimes people can get really like frustrated or defensive when someone's like, hey, have you seen it this way? Or, you know, you seem to be only focused on this and you haven't thought about it this way. What do you think about this? I think sometimes that can trigger people, or like this is stirring my pot when people are pointing out my blind spots. But hey, you're never going to get to where you want to go without support, without this, like you said, it's my job to serve people. Well, there's other people whose purpose is to serve people that are helping you too, to see some of those blind spots. And that's why I think coaching is so important for coaches, for people listening who maybe aren't coaches, but, you know, make an impact in another way. It's so important to have those people who, what was the quote or the figure of speech? Like it's hard to see the water when you're the fish. So it's nice to have other people there who are like, hey, you're in it. You're not noticing it, but like, I'm not in it. So let me help point that out for you. How has that been super helpful for you? And have you experienced any resistance, or what would you say to someone who's maybe one of your clients too, who's experiencing some resistance to the point out of the blind spot? Like how can we realize, hey, that's so important. That's so necessary.
Yeah. Yes. The first question, how has coaching been helping me? I have had, and I want to point this out, I've had different coaches for different levels of my life. I know that my clients that coach with me are going to probably go off and have a different coach for health and wellness or fitness. They'll have a different coach for growing a business, like whatever it is that they might need, right? Once again, going back to there's no one size fits all. So when I first started, I had our friend Jana that supported me with my marketing because I'd never put together a media kit before. Surprisingly, as an entertainer, I'd put one together as an entertainer, but not as a business owner. So I didn't know what the differences were. I didn't know, how to shift the way I was showing up online as a musician versus now showing up as a coach. And so I worked with her. I worked with a branding guy before Jana for about 3 months who taught me the importance of language and branding, right? And so then I went into business coaching with a woman named Shanda and started in her business coaching program, then switched over to the leadership program, which is the Hardcore Leadership I told you about. I'm now in their advanced leadership program. And now I've also hired another woman and actually I've been working with her to teach me about social media marketing and promotions and advertising. So you have different people to guide you through different things. And once again, it goes back to what I said before. I chose to do this. And also let's not, discount my therapist, who's amazing, because I need someone on my corner to help me heal through some of my own past traumas and my own past hurt so that doesn't come into my future. Just because I'm a hypnotherapist and an NLP practitioner doesn't mean that I am not an advocate for therapy. I am a massive advocate for therapy. And I know this is going to rub some feathers in the coaching profession, but any coach that says that you don't need therapy if you have trauma is lying to you. Absolutely. And I'm not saying therapy is for everybody. I'm not saying that, but I am saying that I have found it incredibly beneficial. And for me, I have different people in my corner for the different things that I need. I've got a personal trainer. I've got people that I work with to keep me on track. Now, the resistance question. Yes, of course I've experienced resistance. And the key to resistance for the listeners, if you experience any sort of discomfort or resistance, it means you're on the right track. Because when you are feeling resistant to something, it is pushing you outside of your comfort zone. And when you're pushed outside of your comfort zone, you're able to break through to the next level of your life. Because we could all stay in our comfort zone, right? And experience no resistance whatsoever. But is that what we really want? So I know for me, when I feel like I kind of want to vomit a little bit and I feel like my little kid's going to throw a temper tantrum with any of my coaches or with any of the people I'm working with, I know that I'm on the right track and I know that I'm on the path to breakthrough. And as for my clients, when my clients start to feel resistance, I am not the type of coach that's going to sugarcoat things for you. You're not paying me to be your friend and to be nice, although we are friends and we will build a great relationship. I'm in your corner, but you're paying me to support you to be the best version of yourself. And so when we have those resistance breakdowns, we dive right into them head on. Like, all right, let's figure out where this is coming from. Let's figure out why. Let's figure out how to give you the control over the resistance so that you can then push through it with a little bit more ease. But yes, resistance is necessary. It's absolutely necessary to feel some sort of resistance to be able to get you to where you want to be.
Yeah, I love that reframe that you shared. You're like, that resistance, that feeling, that temper tantrum inside, we've all felt it. That's a sign that you're on the right track. So it's not a sign. I mean, if you were just staying in your comfort zone, you'd be in the sandbox, playing with sand, doing your little kid thing. You wouldn't be waking up daily, kind of pushing the boundaries, pushing the limits a little bit more. And that can be very uncomfortable and sometimes painful and challenging. And having those moments, like you mentioned, of like, what the heck? Am I an 8-year-old that just threw a tantrum because I couldn't have like the toy? But sometimes she comes out, and we just got to give her some credit and some love and understand where it's coming from. And I mean, that's very helpful for me too. So thank you, Amy, to say like, when I feel that resistance, that means I'm on the right path. That doesn't mean every day I need to be combating resistance from anywhere, but that feeling. It's like you're moving forward and then you're like, oh, that's like making me feel some type of way. It's uncomfortable. Either something they said triggered this, or this mirror was held up in front of me. And it's cool because I can take a deep breath and remember that I'm on the right track. So thank you for that gift. That's so helpful. Tell me about the Higher Way of Living, your company, and kind of how that name came about and what you're doing. I mean, we've got so much value from you today, but what really does that coaching look like, and what kind of heart and soul and passion have you put into a higher way of living?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I actually, it's interesting. I've been coaching for, since pandemic, so however long that's been. But I didn't actually come up with the company name until last year. And then we LLC'd out this year. Everything gets to be a work in progress, and it's interesting too, because I didn't even realize, I was on a call once again with our friend Jana, who, if you guys don't know Jana, you check her out. She's amazing. She runs, the Best Holistic Life magazine and is a wonderful mentor and friend. But Jana and I were on just a friend catch up call. And I didn't realize that, whenever Jana and I have conversations, she takes notes. And she never told me this. We've been chatting, known each other for years now, and she's just been taking notes at every conversation we do. She's very, very observant. And apparently we're talking about my business. I was saying, I get to figure out what to call it, because when I was working with entertainers, I called it the entertainer mindset and this and that. But I really, was shifting my niche. I really knew I wanted to work towards purpose-driven women, and really opening this up to even be corporate training at some point as well too. I'm doing some corporate keynotes this year, some other things. And I guess I had just said a higher way of living. Like I want people to rise up. I want them to live at this higher level, this higher way of living, And apparently I said it about 5 or 6 times. And Jana's like, that's your company name right there. And I was like, really? I didn't even hear it come out of my mouth. So goes back to our point, Lunden, about the value of having somebody in your corner that can hear and see the things that you can't see, because apparently I'd said it 5 times and I didn't even realize. So, A Higher Way of Living is a personal and professional development company designed specifically to support you in removing those roadblocks and limiting beliefs about yourself so that you can rise up to who you're meant to be. And we do that through coaching, one-on-one coaching. I do have one-on-one coaching clients that I use NLP with. We meet 3 times a month. NLP, we do hypnosis, and then we do hypnotherapy sessions, which are deep trauma, removing and reframing any type of trauma you might have around whatever that roadblock is that you have. Once again, not a replacement for therapy, but a great addition to. And so I do that with my one-on-one clients. I work with them specifically and individually to figure out what it is that's holding them back to get them through to the next level. My company just released an online course because I realize one-on-one coaching is not necessarily affordable for everyone. And there's a lot of people that want to get started, that want to dip their toes in the water, that really want to get the foundation work under their belt. So I put together a 15 module online course that lays out all of the foundational work that I started with, that all of my clients start with, that we do in the first maybe 1 or 2 months of working together. It's all in there for an online course. There's 6 bonus hypnosis audios in there, all about body positivity, wealth and abundance, taking action, self-love. There's a lot of hypnosis audio that's like deep guided meditation that you can listen to start reprogramming your subconscious mind, because most of our programming comes from the subconscious. Most of the way we act and interact every day are the things that we're not even aware of. So all of that's in the course. There's a couple bonus modules. And then I decided, because we just released the course this year, that I'm going to do twice a month Q&A calls for everybody that's in the online course. So all of my clients, we're in the process of building out a group coaching program that would be more like pod coaching, little bit more hands-on transformation year program. My one-on-one clients, that is a transformation year program, because I want you to get to where you want to go. I'm not like saying, hey, yeah, have fun, do it by yourself. No. You're coming in to work with me. I am in your corner. I am your cheerleader. I am also your coach for a year. We get you from where you are to where you want to be. And then the online course is a great, like I said, a starter place. I also have my podcast, UP Buttercup. And so there's lots of options that are being developed right now. So I would say, for anyone listening, specifically, if you are a woman or female, I love working with men, guys. I don't want you to say that you can't come on in, but I do. My bread and butter, my favorite people that I love to work with are women that are honestly just like you and me, Lunden, like women that have vision, that have purpose, that have strengths, that know where they want to go, but have a really hard time getting there because of those limiting beliefs that are operating through their subconscious. So being able to reprogram that and to get them on the right track, to support them to where they want to go is amazing. So, and I also have a free Facebook group. So come join that too, guys.
You're such a gift, Amy. Thank you so much for being here and for letting us know how we can connect with you. And I love that you have options for people who want to dive right in, pay top dollar, get your one-on-one time, like Amy's all yours during that time, or being able to maybe get a head start in doing some of those prerequisite modules, like you mentioned in your online training. I feel like that's so helpful and so valuable. And I remember, I want to end with this, but I remember like that early time when you were talking about, and Jana, who you mentioned, who's a dear friend and coach of both of ours. I just remember us like in the beginning of the pandemic, sitting on Zoom calls, kind of brainstorming of where we were and where we wanted to be. And those moments where you were at your parents' house and getting things together and learning new skills and all of that. And then to look at you here today. And of course, we are all always works in progress, whatever, but I'm just like blown away because I just see the growth and see the passion and see the mission. And then of course, see the results from all your amazing clients come forth. And so, from someone who saw not all of it, but some of it, during that time, good on you. You're so amazing. You're such a gift. And everyone who's listening, connect with Amy. I'll put all of her links that she mentioned in the description of the show notes so you can connect with her. And thank you, Amy, for being the gift that you are and for being here.
Oh, thank you so much, Lunden. I'm so happy to be able to support and to give back. Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Self-Love and Sweat, the podcast. Hey, do me a favor. Wherever you're listening to this podcast, give us a review. This really helps a lot. And share this with a friend. I'm only one person, and with your help, we can really spread the message of self-love and sweat and change more lives all around the world. I'm Lunden Souza, reminding you that you deserve a life full of passion, presence, and purpose, fueled by self-love and sweat. This podcast is a Hit Spot Austria production.